Namaskar. In today's edition of Right Angle, friends, I'll like to share few thoughts of mine with you all on the most topical thing that is coming to one's mind, and that is being discussed not only here in India but also in the United States. In fact, I'll say that this talk is now, in a sense, under public scrutiny in all parts of the world, in all the leading countries of the world, at least, and that is this tariff war that the US President Donald Trump now has waged against many countries in general, and India in particular. And when I say India in particular, that you all know that perhaps is the only country. I think Brazil is another perhaps. So these are two or three countries on which the tariff is as high as 50%. And when it comes to India, you all know that in the absence of the bilateral trade agreement over which the negotiations were on, but again, Mr. Trump has stopped it for the time being. That there is a pause there. But in the absence of that, what was happening earlier was that 25%. But another additional 25% he has waived, which became effective from yesterday, as a matter of punishment to India, because we are buying the oil from Russia. How does one explain it? Everybody is asking these days, and actually many people do ask me, how do you see it? Frankly speaking, I thought it is a case of sheer madness. One should not waste time in explaining this sort of thing, because there is no rationale. But then when people say that one has to really explain why it is so, then I thought of these three ways to understand this. Because I think since everybody may be thinking that it is a trade issue, and that is why in a way it is an economic issue, I think that will be a very wrong way of looking at it, because it is not an economic issue. It is as much an economic issue as a political issue or a geopolitical issue, or even that can be I'll go further to the extent of bringing some other elements into it. But let me divide it into three parts. When any important decision is taken by one country vis-a-vis another country, there are three ways of looking at it. To put it simply, there will be many other factors, but there is briefly speaking or mainly speaking, there should be in my view three ways of looking at it. That is how I look at this development. One, in economic terms. Two, in political stroke geopolitical terms. And three, in personal terms. So let's now go to the economic part of it. I must admit that I'm not a great, I'm not a student of economics, but the basic things or the elementary things that one can think of, and then what one has read now over the last 5-10 days or 10-15 days is this: what is the rationale that Trump says that it has been very unfair? There are countries which are exporting more to America, but are importing less products of America to their countries. So that way they are exploiting America, and since he wants to make America great again, he has to bring the things under control by saying that you must now compromise with a new deal. But as it has been seen in some countries, like Trump has been able to reach some sort of deal. I think he has reached with Britain. He has reached, I think, with some of these Southeast Asian countries. But then the point is, I'm not going details into those features of those deal. I mean, it is not a compromise. Actually, it is dictation. That means not only America will be imposing more duties to their products, but some of the American products will go duty free to those countries. And not only that, those countries also will be investing billions of dollars in US, and that is how he is now arriving at deals with some countries, like, as I said, in Southeast Asian countries and Britain, and I think Japan he has arrived at. South Korea, perhaps it has not materialized, though I think 2-3 days back they met. South Korean president had gone there, but the point precisely is this: as far as India is concerned, because India had a trade surplus with that, but he is not realizing, when one say that I'm talking of economic terms, any deal, any trade agreement, obviously will be taking the will be based on something which is mutually beneficial. But and then if you are not doing it in the name of the Americans, the very, very senior economist all over the world are saying, he is actually, by displaying this sort of extremism attitude and imposing tariffs without consulting with various other branches of the government there, or the broad American public as a whole, is actually harming the American public, in the sense, suppose suppose you are imposing more tariffs in certain products that are coming or that have been coming in a big way inside America, whether it is textiles, whether other the consumer durables. So when you impose tariffs, obviously these products will become costlier there. So when it becomes costlier there, that means who suffer in the process the most? Actually, it is the American people who will be suffering the most. Suppose a product that they were buying it in $5, now because of your thing that will be $7 or $8 or $10. That means you are inviting inflation to that country, and apart from destabilizing the entire trade arrangement that has been under control, or under that what we call it WTO, that is an international body. We all are parties, and that is, if that these are complaints, there are the proper procedures to redress these grievances and this thing. But then this sort of a unilateral thing destabilizes the whole thing, and this does not actually necessarily help the American themselves, in whose name you are saying you are going to do this. So I really do not know. That's why I said that when one looks at economically, then it really does not make that much a sense, because it is open to various interpretation. As I said, it doesn't necessarily help the American public. And when one particularly talks of India here, the type of things that are going to be hit very hard are, I think, the textiles, some you are in the marine products like shrimps and things. But I mean, basically they are consumer items. I think aam janta, the general public, or general Americans, people they do consume it more, and when that thing will become more expensive, and then when there will be no competition, then because a substantial chunk of that imports into America from India is now stopped, or it becomes so expensive that they will not be able to afford it. So that means you are not really helping the cause or the interests of or promoting the interest of your American people as such. What happens in the long term is something very different. So it exactly does not make any economic sense. The way if you resort to this sort of unilateral measures. Does it make any sense politically or geopolitically? That again is highly debatable, in the sense here they say that let's I'm not talking of other countries. I'm limiting myself to India, because the other countries have the similar sort of complaints. So you say that you have to do it because just because India is buying oil from Russia, we are helping its war making, or we are strengthening its war making ability, and the poor Ukrainians are suffering in the process, and the Ukraine war is not going to halt. So my target here is not exactly you, but then my target here is Russia, and if I really hurt you, then automatically Russia is hurt. You can't hurt Russia directly, so you need to hurt Russia's war making ability, or efforts, or its military, contributing towards the military strength, or rather weakening its military strength directly. But you think that if you are imposing tariffs on India just because it buys oil from Russia, the Russia's military will become considerably weak. Nothing can be more preposterous, this sort of argument. Actually, if you do it, and then it is so ridiculous that in the sense that India alone doesn't buy the Russian oil. Actually, much more than India, it is China which buys the Russian oil. And as I think our Indian foreign minister the other day said, that it is a question of maintaining the global, stability, energy situation, as far as energy situation is concerned. And what was happening that the oil that India was, buying from Russia, and in a way it was, reprocessing, and then some of this, reprocessed, oil was being also sold to the other parts of the world, including, America, because when the war took place and they imposed, sanctions on, Russia, so they thought this is the best way. If you can't, buy directly Russian oil and energy, if some other, country does it and they reprocess it and then, sell it, then at least the global stability will be there as far as oil prices are, concerned. Otherwise, it will go to $140, per barrel, and then that will be having, serious economic repercussions, all over the world. But that apart, the fact is, you are imposing sanctions, but in a way, the Americans themselves have not completely stopped, buying some of the Russian oil and gas, and the Europeans, most of the European countries which otherwise are, very much with, Ukraine in their, in its, fight against, Russia, they themselves are, buying it. Actually, the Russian economy, or Russia earns, more by selling its oil-related oil or, gas to Europe, and to certain extent even in America, it gets, more money than what it gets from India. So it does not, make any sense, whatsoever. Leave apart, that angle. The very fact that China really buys, more oil. I think, there is a study, it says that they buy nearly double the oil that we have, bought from, Russia in the last, 2-3 years. And if really you are saying that you want to give a strong, political, message, why you have left out, China? And why only India? Why India is the only country you have imposed 25% additional tariffs just because it has bought the Russian oil? Why? Why you only have, picked, India, not China? Are you really afraid of China? I think this is a point that I want to highlight a little, more. To the outside world, as I said, that he has, Trump, what he has done, he only has shown his dadagiri as far as allies and partners are, concerned. Like he wants now land everywhere, he wants to make Canada a part of, America, he wants, Panama, he wants, Greenland. And I think 2 days back or 3 days back, when South Korean president went, he says that you give some territory of South Korea to us. And these are, the full-fledged, allies, military allies and partners of the United States. And there, on them, he shows his, dadagiri. But, Trump literally chickens out when China comes. As I said, you are imposing, tariffs on India, but when China thing comes, all your dadagiri melts away. You, not only on this, you take another dimension like, that, visa regime has become so stringent after, Trump's coming in January, and it has affected various, foreign students, from going and studying there in American universities. And India always is one of the most important countries in that regard. Lots of Indians, do go and take their, or go for their higher studies there in the US. But he really imposed some, stringent, conditions for these, foreign, students. And I think there that education sector, and particularly these, famous universities and colleges, they have suffered hell of a lot, the financial, loss, because It is a major source of their revenue, and I think okay, I'm not going into the data and in the figure, but the point is, as far as China is concerned, it's so scared. Trump is of Xing and this China. For the Chinese student, he said that 6 lakhs. That means 600,000. I think day before yesterday, they are most welcome to come and study in American universities. Why? Why are you so much scared of China? And with allies and friends like India, you are real dada. And we buy Russian oil, so we are under sanctions. But China buys, nothing you can do. All your bravado is not seen. And I don't think in my recent memory, any American president has behaved as weakly, weakly in the sense that, who really, should I say, that is rather cowardly, I think that is the proper word, as cowardly as, Trump, as far as dealing with, China is concerned. I think the Americans will never forgive him for that. He literally has proved himself to be a coward. No American president has been as cowardly as Trump is while dealing with China. But as far as as I said, friends and allies are concerned, he shows his dadagiri, that supremacy and bravado and what not. So, as I said, that it doesn't make any sense also politically, and why it does not make any sense politically, particularly when one talks of countries like India, because all told, your number one enemy, geopolitical enemy of America happens to be China, and when one talks of the global order, and you says that I am the only superpower, so your superpowers, that status is under constant challenge from China, and it is more or less a global consensus, and particularly the Chinese aggressive behaviors and designs in South China Sea, in broad Indo-Pacific in general, and then over Taiwan, and then challenging America's economic supremacy everywhere. So that is there in the America's number one challenger, key challenger. And when you meet any key challenger, if always you need friends, you need allies. And that was a broad system in case of US having having allies, many friends in all parts of the world, because what brought them together is this fear of China. And particularly when one talks of Asia in this past of Indo-Pacific, the most important country that way has been India. And I think the India-US relations, considering this China factor, plus we are the democracies, and then we have got I think in many looking at from many angles, I think India and US are natural allies. So that is why over the last 25 and 30 years there has been a constant upward trend in the relations between India and US, and it always enjoyed a bipartisan support of both the Republicans as well as the Democrats. And even Trump in his first term, during his first term, that is 2017 to 21, exactly pursued that sort of bipartisan politics and was extremely, close to India, and they did, pursue that sort of thing. But they, all of a sudden, by doing this, you have now harmed the tempo or this sort of onward march of Indo-US relations so much that it will take years to bring it back on the path. So it doesn't make any political sense. And as I said, the third point is personal. I think that is how I look at it, and that is how Trump in his second term since January 20 when he took oath has been behaving. He is very unpredictable, and everything is personal, and it is now there is a global consensus. His only obsession is to get a Nobel Prize. And how he will get a Nobel Prize? If he will be, as far as the global public perception, will be considered that he is a big man who can, bring, peace all over, who can, change the existing global order and inaugurate or bring out a new thing. And for that, he has to take some sort of credit. Whatever he will say, people will agree with him. I'm not talking of China. As far as China is there, he will be procrastinating before them. But minus China, everybody will say that I am Dada and I am their emperor. And so I get even a Nobel Prize. I stop the war there between Russia and Ukraine. I am stopping the war there in Gaza. I am stopping the war between India and Pakistan. That way, the way he is talking of, and which is not a fact. He said that he telephoned Modi, and Modi stopped the war with Pakistan. That recent skirmishes that we had between India and Pakistan. And which is certainly not true. And when India did not agree to that, or when India said that that has not been the case, the war stopped because of Pakistan's request, not that Trump asked us to stop it. He became a completely different man. His great friendship with Modi was gone. He realized that Modi is the one who is stopping me from getting the Nobel Prize. So everything becomes personal. As I said, this bipartisan consensus of more than 30 years between India and the country, he has sacrificed everything. I will punish Modi. I will punish India. And I think this is a very serious thing. He is not Trump is not going to stop here by just imposing this thing. This 50, 60, 70% tariffs. I think it is becoming increasingly clear that his one point obsession is to remove Modi from power. And that how the American deep state gets involved, and they really wanted Trump not to come, but then now that time actually the other people at the Trump people are expecting once he comes the things will stop. But actually now Trump himself will be encouraging. He is not going to stop here. He is not going to stop only by imposing this thing, these tariffs. I think they are out and out to remove Modi, because Trump thinks it is Modi who stopped his Nobel Prize. And he must have been further, anguished by the fact that Modi is the only global leader who does not, receive his telephone calls also. When he makes a call, I think now you have seen that in the last, everywhere, Japanese press, German press, foreign press, it has not been reported here in India. I think they have started, I think last week he tries 4 times to talk to Modi. Modi did not pick up the phone. So such is the situation. So it is strictly personal. It does not make any economic sense. It does not make any political and geopolitical sense. What Trump is doing, it is strictly from his, his personal affront, because Modi has not helped him in getting the Nobel Prize. So what is the way out? The way out is this. I think there are, he cannot, stop the onward march of 140 crores, Indian, Trump is, seriously mistaken. And of course, it is going to affect us because of this high tariffs. But the way is that now our export market has to be diversified, and within our own country, our products should be sold more and more. That means expanding the domestic market, and for that I think he's bringing down the GST prices, so that there will be more money in people's hands. And if they buy the things, then most of the things that were exported will be consumed by the Indians themselves. And so there will be more liberalization, and of course, and you find alternate export in the market. That is called export diversification. And as far as this Indo-US relations are concerned, as I said, we are natural allies. Obviously, it has got a severe jolt, but only good thing is that Trump is not going to rule there, forever. And I think we have to endure next, 3.5 years, and particularly one more year. I am quite sure if this way Trump's policies continue, then next year when their congressional elections will be there, his strength will be reduced by half. But anyway, the whole point is that the Democrats now are challenging this policy of Trump towards India. Many Republicans also are upset. So the American other institutions, the American people as such, we have to have continuous dialogue and interactions with them. And this, of course, this entire thing has given us a serious jolt, but the time and patience are required to confront this challenge that has come from Mr. Donald Trump. Let me stop here. Thank you. Namaskar.